And welcome to the 68th Easter service here at Unity Temple. Unity Temple's actually been open 69 years, but the first year the sanctuary wasn't finished. Most of the church services were being held down in the community room, but the Easter crowd simply wouldn't fit there. So they had it at the Plaza Theater down at 47th and Wyandotte. Easter service is a day that we celebrate the resurrection, the ascension of Jesus Christ. We also celebrate something else. It is the only day, one time a year, that Pete Smith comes to church. That's supposed to be funny. Yeah. Now, I have realized over the years that every time I say Pete's name, and he's an outstanding attorney from across the street in the Scully building, every time I say his name during the service, his offering goes up. So if you hear Pete Smith quite a few times today, just know it's ka-ching, ka-ching every time it happens. I was talking to Pete not long ago, and I asked him if he knew the true meaning of Easter. He said, of course I do. I said, well, tell me. He said, Easter's the day Jesus came out of the cave. And if he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter. Well, we are here to celebrate and rejoice this morning. But the question before all of us is, celebrate and rejoice in what? The obvious answer to that question is Jesus. The follow-up question is, why do we celebrate and rejoice in Jesus? Is it because he was conceived by the Holy Ghost, suffered under Pontius Pilate, crucified, dead, and buried, resurrected in 3 days, ascended into heaven to sit on the right hand of God the Father Almighty? Is it because he brought other people back from the dead? Is it because he walked in water? He fed 5,000 people with 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread? Or he's able to calm a storm simply with the wave of a hand? What if, and those are admirable feats, by the way, but what if none of those had been recorded? What if they didn't even happen? Would we still be here today celebrating and rejoicing in Jesus? That's an interesting question. And the reason I bring it up is sometimes religion gets so caught up in the my God is better than your God game, or the spiritual founder of my religion is better than the spiritual founder of your religion, and if you don't turn your life over to my guy, Jesus, you're not going to be saved, which means 70% of the people on earth are going to go to hell when they die. Now, does that sound like Jesus? And oftentimes when we get caught up in all the stories that go along with Jesus and his life, you know, the message, which is the real reason that we're here, the message is overlooked and it becomes diminished. Jesus was a very easygoing guy. His ministry was for all people. He preached not only the Jewish people, but he preached to Gentiles, pagans, even atheists. Everybody was welcome, everybody was embraced. He didn't have any doctrines, dogma, or creeds. He didn't have rules and regulations that say you have to do this or you can't do that. He didn't put out a call for a capital campaign every 3 years or so. He didn't impress upon the people the consequences that they were going to suffer under if they didn't do as he said. He was a very easy guy. It was, everybody come, take a seat on the hill. Let's learn about life. I'm going to share with you today 3 very important parts of Jesus' message. 3 of Jesus' primary teachings, and if we take these willingly and practice them in our lives, an incredible change can take place. Now, the first is self-esteem. Self-esteem, by definition, is how one values him or herself. It's a degree of worthiness that one sees in him or herself. A low self-esteem and feelings of unworthiness were at an epidemic level in Jesus' day, primarily because the religious leaders of the day were preaching from the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is littered with verses that tell people that they're sinful by nature, that they're unworthy in the eyes of God, that they quite simply aren't good enough. Jesus told the people the opposite. Now just imagine the impact this had. The religious leaders of the day were putting people down and trying to keep them down. The new kid in the block comes along, does exactly the opposite, and lifts them up. He tells the people that you are the light of the world. He tells the people that God is within you. He tells the people that you are good in every way. This was a huge revolution when it came to religion and spiritual thought. Low self-esteem and feelings of unworthiness are at an epidemic level today as well. And there are some that still preach, some religions that still preach, that you and me, humanity, are sinful by nature, unworthy in the eyes of God, and not as good as we should be. But the problem exists if we don't feel good about ourselves, if we don't have a sense of appreciation and gratitude for who we are, if there isn't a sense of comfort and ease in just being who you are, life diminishes, it loses its value, and we end up living in the shadows. Jesus' message to you today is stand tall, be confident, let no person or no thing diminish your worth, and express appreciation and gratitude for who you are. The second message is to release the vast majority of worries, fears, and anxieties that we get caught up in. We worry and stress out way too much. And much of our worry is about things that we can do nothing about. Things that have happened in the past that are beyond our control to change. Worries about what might happen in the future. One of Jesus' most powerful messages was when he said to the people, to the disciples specifically, because they were very worried, very concerned, very fearful of how they're going to maintain their living on Jesus' traveling ministry. Where are we going to get food? We don't have any storehouse full of food. Where are we going to get clothes when our clothes get ragged? What if we can't find shelter? It was at that point where Jesus said, just wait a minute. Calm down. He says, look at the birds in the air. Look at the flowers in the field. Look at the animals of the land. They don't worry. They've been given every single thing they need to live a comfortable and fulfilling life. If God has given that to them, don't you think that God is going to give you the same? And that is the truth of the matter. Every person in this room has exactly what you need to overcome the problems and challenges that come your way in life. You have everything you need to move beyond the darkest times and to rise up to a place that is even better before the situation occurred. The third message is on harmonious relationships. The relationships are everything. Every single aspect of your life involves a relationship. You can't think of anything that happens in which a relationship is not involved, whether it's a relationship with other people, situations and circumstances in your life, how you relate to them, relationship with God, relationship with yourself, relationship with other things. Everything is relationships. And the quality of your relationships, the health of your relationship, is identical to the quality of your life. If we can maintain relationships that have a sense of harmony within them, life is going to be much better. Jesus said, agree with your adversary quickly. Now, the spiritual principle behind that is what we think about expands. If you're thinking on the negative is going to expand in your life. Also, what we think about most of the time is what our life is going to become. So he was telling people, maintain harmony within your lives. We all know when we have conflict in a relationship, when it becomes turbulent, especially with somebody that we feel is very close to us, it doesn't feel good. It makes us ill. It makes us feel bad. So from a physical state of point, a mental state of point, and a spiritual state of point, harmony in relationships are essential. The last thing I want to share with you is that Jesus' ministry was a practical one. As I said before, he didn't have dogma, doctrines, and creeds. He didn't have rules and regulations. It was very, very simple. Simple principles that we can take and practice in our lives. And that is the key. Just like you practice to learn how to read, or practice to learn how to write, or practice to learn how to ride a bike, or practice to learn how to swim, or practice to gain any other skill that you have gained, just as you practice that, we have to practice the principles that Jesus taught. And when we do that, we see incredible changes that take place in our life. It's one step at a time, one day at a time, practicing the principles that throughout the ages have proven to make us feel happier, healthier, and live a better life. So today, this Easter morning, I encourage you to go in peace, be kind to yourself, be confident, worry less, treat others the way you want to be treated. We'll now prepare for meditation.